What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Going Rogue, our weekly Star Wars stream. And with us today, very special guest, John Rocha, talking Star Wars. Welcome to the show, John. Thank you for joining us tonight. And you're very busy. You've been on 4 shows before ours, and you have anoty one right after ours.
I do. Well, it's my pleasure, Dimalanta. It's my pleasure. I hope I said that right. I'm happy to be happy to be on the show. I'm excited to be on the show. You know, I'm a big fan of you and big fan of Nicki, and what you guys did with that song at the beginning of the year was a great way to start us off. And so getting to know you more as we've gone along with the Star Wars stuff has really been a pleasure of mine, to be honest with you. So I'm happy to be on here.
Very much mutual. And I'm thinking of maybe making a new one that includes Sabrina. We'll see what happens.
We'll see. I'm down. I like it.
But this isn't a Schmodown show. We have our own Schmodown show, but this is Star Wars. This is another show. We celebrate Star Wars. And before we get into the topics, John, I just wanted to, because I never really had an opportunity to talk to you about Star Wars and your experience. Just really quickly, when were you introduced? What was your experience with it? What kept you around with the property for so long?
Well, I did not go, contrary to popular opinion, I did not go see it in the theater opening night of the premiere. I wasn't there, in a tux. To me, I had not seen, I knew about Star Wars through my friends at school, but I had not seen the film until CBS used to do these Sunday night at the movies things way back before cable or anything like that. And they would show these films a year later, that were first run films like a year later, like you waited in anticipation. They would announce it in the paper and you're just waiting, and they do the promos and then you'd watch it. So for me, that was my first experience with Star Wars. And when I saw that film that night, I remember losing my mind watching it as a 10-year-old. And when Kenobi died, spoiler alert, when Kenobi died, I remember jumping up and down and screaming and crying. My dad running downstairs wondering what the hell was going on. And I was like, they killed him. And I was wearing a brown robe at the time. And so to me, there was a real connection. And I remember visually just my jumping up and down on our ottoman and screaming about it, And so from that point forward, I've been a fan of Star Wars. I haven't been as, crazed as some of the other fans can be, or super in-depth in Star Wars, but I always appreciated and loved it. Went to see Empire Strikes Back with my dad and parents in the theater, with my brother and sister, I think, as well. And then, of course, Jedi with my friends, because by that point I was a little bit of a teenager, so I was going to see it there. And then, of course, the prequels here in LA, actually. I was here, we started in 98, 99, then we saw the last one here in LA. And then, of course, watching all the stuff that I've watched before. I used to pick up the books at the 7-Eleven that they used to sell on the racks way back when I was a young kid, and read some of those. I don't remember anything about most of them, but I remember just getting them, then reading them and devouring them and looking for the next one with my money that my parents allowed me to have, allowance. So that was my life. So I really loved it. I used to have all the what do you call this? Land speeder. I had the land speeder. I had the 8-inch Luke or 10-inch Luke.
Nice.
I had all those figures and stuff growing. The Millennium Falcon, had all of that growing up as a kid. But then eventually kind of faded away from it, moved on to other things, discovered girls, things of that nature. And so, but then eventually found my way back thanks to a number of people in my life. But yeah, that's my experience with Star Wars in a nutshell.
That's great. And the thing I love about Star Wars, we all have different entry points. We all have different experiences. The oldest thing I know is Star Wars. You have your experience with Star Wars, and Nicki's the newest, I would say, to the property of everybody that we bring on, because her introduction to Star Wars was me.
Yes, absolutely. Had never seen a single one before.
13 years ago when we first started dating, and then obviously with the newer trilogy, that's when you really got into it. And, but that's what I love about Star Wars.
And now I've seen them more times than I care to count. And when we're done here, I'm gonna go continue watching Solo.
It's gonna be a shorter show than usual. John has a heart out. We're trying to keep these shows shorter for obvious reasons. I have to go back to the tree cave and study.
Get it?
So really, what we've really been doing is, since Clone Wars is wrapped up, we usually briefly talk about Clone Wars, but really now what we're talking about is they're called Disney Galleries, and they're doing The Mandalorian. I know you said you only seen the first 2 episodes. What have you been thinking about these? Because I just recently caught up to them.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I was kind of resisting them because I was like, I saw Mandalorian. I don't need to have the background. I don't see this behind the scenes stuff and have it ruined for me, some of the magic of the show. So I was hesitant. But then when you said, hey, we might be talking about this. What are you thinking about? And I was like, all right. I took a couple hours and I watched the first 2.5 of them, and they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. It doesn't ruin a damn thing. If anything that it does is it enriches your experience
absolutely
of watching these. And I came away incredibly impressed with Deborah Chow. Like, she kind of wins for me, because I mean, Bryce Dallas is still new to the directing thing. You know what Fumiyama can do. You know what Taika Waititi can do. But seeing Deborah command the set and be so malleable and willing to work within the time constraints and the hours and totally use every minute that she can, it was. I just felt like, okay, Kenobi is in the best hands with someone like her.
Yeah.
Right, but I love the Filoni story of the Lucas. That is probably my highlight of the 2.5 episodes that I've watched is Filoni's story about how he came on to do Clone Wars and stuff with George Lucas, and seeing George on set. Set was awesome. So
that's great. Yeah, because like I totally agree. It enriches the experience, because you didn't watch them because you're doing.
I was watching Star Wars behind him while he was doing that. He took a day off. No, I didn't. He didn't take a day off. He took a couple hours off for his birthday yesterday. But I was behind him watching the movies. Rest assured.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like, what did you do for your birthday? I took a break for a couple hours to watch Star Wars.
Yeah, our friends were like, "Hey, Andrew, what are you doing for your birthday? You watching Star Wars?" Oh, yeah, just a different kind of Star Wars, I guess.
Yeah, but like this totally enriches the three things I brought out from this. Dave Filoni and oh god, why is his name escaping me? The showrunner,
Jon Favreau.
Jon Favreau. God,
it's because he's not involved with the movies. That's what our focus is.
Right.
Yeah, so one thing is Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni need to be in charge of like live action anything for this, because they have such a handle on like who to hire, and like give people freedom and when to reel them in, and like use their strengths to further the story. Filoni is just like he was Lucas's right hand man. He was being groomed to take over Star Wars, and you can absolutely see that in the Duel of the Fates conversation that he had. And it's like, then everybody's just like dead silent for that conversation, just letting him speak. It's so great. But the one that I was gushing over was this last one with they are introducing this new technology, and they called it the volume. And it's just this room full of screens, LED screens from the ceiling. It's almost like 360, and they project the actual scenery onto the screens. So it's like you get this realistic lighting on the people, and it go far as it's powered by the Unreal gaming engine, and they like track the camera live, like real-time tracking. So wherever to solve the parallax, I don't know if when you move a camera, parallax happens, and if you have a flat image, it won't sell, but it updates it in real time on the background, so you can see like it'll have like this the environment all around them, and then this one slither of the screen is constantly changing because that's where the camera's being pointed. And I was like, this is, for lack of a term, is unreal. It's ridiculous, because this Star Wars has always been about, for a technical standpoint, Lucas is always trying to push the envelope.
Yeah.
Push the envelope of filmmaking to better and make things easier, make things more streamlined. This is going to change the game. I have no idea. Well, you'll hear people here and there talk about like, oh, this is really cool. This changes filmmaking. It's absolutely, because like the one comment is that I noticed in the show was like, oh, we're shooting a 12-hour sunset. It's like, 12-hour sunset? Are you kidding me? Because like usually when you do it on location, you get what, 2 to 3 hours for a sunset, and then if you mess something up, well, I guess we got to scrap that. Try it again tomorrow. Yeah. Now you can go in and shoot a sunset for 12 hours, get the shots you need, and you save so much time, so much effort. And they also made a comment that to like if they need to switch something, like, all right, let's try this. You do it in real time. You switch the scenery up. You move things here and there, and you save so much time and effort. And I can almost see like something like Kenobi being shot on this, saves so much money. Independent filmmakers, because when the technology gets downscaled, gets more affordable, independent filmmakers will almost immediately latch onto this. And now you can go to like Italy and be in your garage. It's like they use this term called Lucas's garage, because this is what Lucas was pushing for. Like, he's 10 years ahead of the time. He was always pushing to get to this point, to where you can go anywhere in the galaxy, anywhere in the universe, and not leave your house. So I was just thinking this is a game changer. Why is nobody talking about this? This is amazing. Like, this is something I want to get my hands on, and like start just put it in my garage, and we'll make films like every weekend. So
don't give Christian ideas.
Yeah.
Hey man, it's probably real expensive right now, but give it like 5 years, that
Christian's got a Patreon. It's okay.
But like that was just something I was always like, wow, this is, if I'm looking into filmmaking right now, if I'm a young kid, it's like the possibilities are endless now. This is what Star Wars has always been about. So I was like blown away about that. I don't mean to gush about this, but
why? Why not? It's such an incredible thing to witness and watch.
Oh yeah, like when you get a chance, you need to watch this episode, because I was sitting there with my mouth open, like, wow, this is unreal. This is so, like, you were passing by me doing like chores and stuff, and like, what is he talking about? What's
nerd?
That's exactly what she said to me. He's like, nerd. I'm like, why is nobody talking about it? But yeah, so yeah, if you haven't watched those, and again, guys, if you want to have questions to Rocha, we have our Streamlabs, streamlabs.com/videos by Andrew Wan. Thank God it's the last time we're going to be using that URL because I hate it. But yeah, so go ahead and send us in your Streamlabs. Talk to us in the comments. But we're going to go ahead
Ben
and...
Goddard chimed in and says, ooh, that flannel, John, I dig it.
Was there anything else that you wanted to, before we move on to news topics, that spoke out to you with these things? Because there's a couple other things that I completely lost because I was gushing over technology.
I think it was great to get more time with Gina Carano, to be honest with you. You know, I have a massive crush on her for such a long time. Look, I love my girlfriend, but I can still have crushes on people. I had a crush on Gina Carano since the Ultimate, whatever that fighting thing was on NBC that they brought back, American Gladiators.
Yes.
When she was on American Gladiators, I had such a crush on her, and then watching her fight in MMA, became a big fan of hers. And then when she did Haywire, I thought she was great in Haywire. Of course, that's Laura San Giacomo doing her voice. So when she took the hits for that, because people were criticizing her acting, criticizing her, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff, I thought, okay, we'll lose Gina to like the lower rung movies, straight to DVD movies. But what she said after she got cast in Mandalorian and the work she's done with Favreau and Filoni and everybody involved in the cast, she talks about how they really took care of her and how they really kind of brought her, or like gave her confidence to that she could actually do this. And I've enjoyed her on the show, and seeing her behind the scenes talking more about it, and seeing how she is navigating the situation, and seeing how she's so grateful for the opportunity. Because who would have thought, really, Gina Carano in this situation? She's just been so incredible. So to see her she's like a light, that just got turned on as a human being, and you're just like, oh, this is great to see. So for me personally, I enjoyed seeing her just kind of shine in what she was doing in the behind the scenes, and everyone was working with her. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, and the one thing that I think that spoke to me for her, quote, she had this amazing story to tell, that she's like a student, she's learning while she's going along, and she's this great quote that Favreau took at her side and he said he's like, hey, come here. They were talking about Carl Weathers, and he's like, look at this guy, watch what he's doing. That's a star. And she was just like, yeah, okay. And she's absorbing all this. That was a great quote. It's like, it's not only they're nurturing her, she's there to learn and to further her craft. Because before this, she's like, yeah, she was all right in Deadpool. She was all right in a couple other things. But she was fantastic in this role. And I'm glad that she's coming back for season 2. But yeah. So moving on from this, we want to hit maybe a news story. There wasn't not a whole lot of news with Star Wars right now.
Well, someone made a comment in here that I kind of want to just throw in for a second. Michael Nip says, please tell me that JJ and Kaz in episode 8 treatment going around today isn't real.
Kaz in what?
JJ and Kaz in episode 8 treatment.
I did not see that. I mean, I haven't been active on Twitter a whole lot lately, but
yeah, Andrew has been kind of shut off. so
I don't know. I'll look into that.
Just figure I'd throw it out there in case somebody knew what it was.
If it's rumors, I really don't pay attention to it all that much. I usually like confirmed stories. I know a lot of the casting for Mandalorian has been hearsay, but reported by credible sources. But Lucasfilm hasn't come out. But we talk them because they're credible sources. I think the one story that I wanted to hit was this. Ronald, what was his name?
Ronald Moore.
Ronald Moore came out and talked about the
Underworld.
Underworld, the unproduced movie of Underworld. And Nicki, if you want to just really,
a brief overview. Writer Ronald Moore, Star Trek: Next Generation, First Contact. He was talking in an interview and saying that apparently George Lucas had assembled several writers from all over the world and asked them to write an entire series before he'd even started thinking about production.
Oh wow.
My, what was that? I don't know if everybody else could hear that. Ads.
Yeah.
So yeah, he got this whole group together. They wrote something like 48 scripts, and he told them, write it like there's no budget. And so they wrote, hello, whoever sent that, and we'll get to you in just a moment. But yeah, he said, write it like you got no budget. As big of a set as you want, crazy, whatever you want to do. So they just kind of went bananas and wrote like 48 scripts, and I don't know what's going to come of that. But yeah.
I love the idea. I mean, the 48 scripts, that's way more than you usually would write in a season. And so to have so many of those being written lets you know that they really had an intention to go far with this series, not just for one season, And, like we just talked about in this behind the scenes stuff that they showed on Disney Plus, right? Filoni, or one of the tech guys in the second episode is talking about how George Lucas would be like, oh yeah, we'll see what happens. And then 1 year he's like, yeah, maybe we'll do some more Star Wars. And that's the way he is. Like once he wants to do it, it's like full bore, you know? And the fact that they did 48 scripts and there's so much material, and that 9 or 10 minute video that was on YouTube to see some of that in conjunction with what Ronald is talking about here, it gets you kind of semi excited for what could happen if they want to revisit this kind of thing. And I think Mandalorian is like a step towards that possibility down the road.
Yeah, because this was supposed to be the first live action Star Wars like TV show, but it just got put on the back burner. And then when Disney took the property, it's like, we're not gonna do that, because they were just so scared to do what George wanted to do, and that's a whole different discussion for another time. But I think this news with like they have all these scripts. Who says they can go like, okay, well, Mandalorian's doing really well. If Obi-Wan pops off again, it's like, okay, well, we have some great opportunities for TV shows, especially now that we have Disney Plus. Let's do a couple of these scripts, put it on Disney Plus, maybe a limited series.
Yeah, see how it's received.
Yeah, and the fact that it's 48 scripts, why couldn't they do this with like the sequel trilogy? Like write all the scripts out first. Yeah. And like I have my own gripes with that. I love the new trilogy. I have my own issues with a couple of here and there, but for the most part, I haven't really not liked anything that Disney has popped out with the movies. But thank you again for another Streamlabs. But like it's like the door's open now. Like Mandalorian has been proven to be good. At the very least, it's good. I mean, you really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for season 2. But I'm curious. It's like, hey, let's revisit this, because it's a territory of Star Wars that we really haven't gotten a whole lot look at, with the underworld and the lower levels of Coruscant. But I'm excited for that if it ever does happen. So let's go ahead and hit those Streamlabs that just came in.
Yeah. The first one came in from Sinister Alec Miller. Love what y'all are doing, Andrew and Nikki.
Thank you.
John, what are your thoughts on Sasha Banks joining this awesome team for Mandalorian Season 2? And who would you like to see her play? Ooh. Sabine would be awesome. Thank you, Alec Miller.
Yeah, here's another situation, right? Sasha Banks, not a lot of acting experience, just like Carano to a degree, although Carano had a little bit more than her. She did front lead a film like Haywire. But Sasha has been doing, to a degree, acting in professional wrestling, right? The Rock came out of professional wrestling. Batista came out of professional wrestling. John Cena now, who's blowing up, came out of professional wrestling. So we haven't had a woman necessarily that I can think of cross over from professional wrestling into successful acting. And no, Ronda Rousey does not count. And I think Sasha Banks is a great choice. She's beautiful. She's strong. She's successful at what she does in pro wrestling. She's great on the mic. She's a Snoop Dogg's niece. So there's a connection there. So coming into this situation, I want to see what she plays, and I want to see what kind of levels that Filoni and Favreau and whoever's directing the episodes that she's in, I want to see what kind of levels they get out of her as an actress. Is she going to play the surface stuff, which is what you play mostly in professional wrestling? You're playing the moment as it's happening. Or is she going to go deeper like you saw Cara Dune, like you saw Gina Carano do with her character? That's what I'm excited to see. Sabine is the easy choice because she likes to color her hair anyway, and she's of darker skin complexion. Yeah. So it would work completely. A lot of people would rather see Tia Sakar come out from behind the mic and play the character. Yeah. But I would not have a problem if Sasha plays Sabine. Sasha Banks and Rosario Dawson together, shoot.
I wouldn't have
heck of a combination, let me tell you.
I wouldn't have a problem with it, although I am a little concerned because no acting experience and giving her a character that's high profile in the Star Wars universe. I thank you again for the Streamlabs, whoever that was. But she's already like so important to so many people, and to give her a high profile character like that, like without her being a proven actress, at this point. I could be proven wrong. You know, I'm not in the business for a reason.
Gorgeous too. Oh my God.
Yeah, but
Yes.
yeah, but I'm excited because just again for the fact that bring in new people to give the show a little bit of boost, a little bit of star power. And a familiar face to other people, bring other people into the property. I think that's what this casting does. But we also have 2 other streamlines that we got to get to before we get to our main topic.
Michael Nip chimed in. Thank you. Thanks for reading my question. Good luck in the tournament, Andrew.
Thank you.
So thank you, Michael. The next one was Sinister Alec Miller again. What character or story would you like to see get a live action series? Thank you, Alec Miller again.
I want you to headline this. Or not to headline, but to start off it.
Something I was just saying to Andrew yesterday when I finished watching Rogue One was I think it would be interesting to see, and there might not be enough. I don't know. Everything in Star Wars has a backstory. There's more than enough material.
Mm-hmm.
What am I talking about? I would like to see like a what if kind of thing about Chirrut Imwe and what would happen if the Jedi Order had taken him in and trained him to be a Jedi instead of just saying, "Hey, you're blind. You're a guardian of the will." You know?
Yeah.
I kind of wish they would have I mean, I don't know if blindness was the reason that he was not, groomed to become a Jedi. I can only imagine that was part of it.
I don't know.
Was that not it?
Well,
that was just my assumption.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I would be interested to see what would have happened had he actually been groomed and trained in the Force, because if he's that dangerous, kind of just doing it on his own, then man,
I think that would be fantastic because we had this discussion before that Chirrut he's clearly Force sensitive and he's clearly using the Force to do everything he does in that movie. And I had this conversation, but Alex Damon brought this point up that he might have been a candidate to be a Jedi trainee or a Padawan, but since he didn't fit A, B, and C criteria,
age and all that kind of stuff.
Because in Phantom Menace, they were quickly to dismiss Anakin. Yeah, quickly dismiss Anakin because look at him, he's too old. He can't be trained. Yeah, that quickly he was just cast aside. And I feel that with Chirrut, it's probably he didn't meet certain things. Because that was the fall of the Jedi Order, is that they got so caught up in politics, procedures, and rule books, and that they lost sight of what they wanted to do and what they're supposed to do. That it's like, all right, well, he's clearly strong with the Force, but not strong enough to be a Jedi. Let's make him a Guardian. And just have him do that. So.
Nah, dog. I think you'd have been a very sweet
What
Jedi.
about you, John? What kind of story would you want to see?
Nah, dog. Saw Gerrera. I would like to see the time between the end of the Clone Wars and when he shows up in Rogue One. Because there is a gap of time between the guy who fought alongside his sister, lost his sister, and experienced those war wounds, for lack of a better term, and the bitter, disenfranchised, rebel leader that we see in Rogue One.
Yeah,
and a lot of people were upset about that character. And look, Star Wars does a great job of redeeming characters when they don't get it right the first time, right?
Yeah.
Certainly Hayden Christensen and Anakin Skywalker in the Clone Wars is the perfect example of that. But you look at this situation, I think it'd be interesting, and also to have a black-led Star Wars show or movie would be nice. We're getting a Latino one with the Cassian Andor series. I'm happy about that. Oscar Isaac was a prevalent part of the original trilogy, so I'd like to see a black-led Star Wars thing. Why not? And Saw Gerrera is an excellent character. If people just only know him from Rogue One, there is such a backstory to explore with him that would be fun. And he's connected to Anakin. He's connected to all kinds of things. Saw Gerrera is. So that would be, and I think he shows up in that Star Wars game that just came out, the video game that came out.
He shows up in Fallen Order, and he makes a 2-episode appearance in Rebels, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so you see him here and there, but he's a vastly different character in Rebels and in Clone Wars.
Yep.
He's closer to the Rogue One. Yeah, because Rebels is sort of butting up against Rogue One in that time, so it's closer. So, but that'd be great to see.
It would be interesting to see how he got to be the paranoid extremist that he was in Rogue One.
Yeah, he's very paranoid. Cause
he's Vader. He's Vader at a lesser degree, but for the other side.
Yeah,
the breathing apparatus, the constantly questioning everything around him, trusting no one, having his henchmen with him. He's just essentially a smaller version of Vader, just for the other side, for the good side. So
just not Force sensitive.
He's not. What he does to,
Thank goodness.
What he does to Riz Ahmed's character, that's pretty brutal.
It's pretty rough.
That guy,
Although I do have my own gripes about Bor Gullet, but
Yeah.
Another time, another show.
Oh, got it. Oh, got it. Oh, got
You would
it.
know the truth.
Know the truth. But for me, I'm an X-Wing guy. I loved, I've gotten like maybe 4 books into the Legends books with the Rogue, the X-Wing books.
The Rogue Squadron.
Yeah, and I want to see a Rogue Squadron led by Wedge Antilles. I want to see. Yep. Look at him. Right. Oh yeah, Alphabet Squadron. Alphabet Squadron was fantastic.
Yeah,
it was so good. But yeah, I want to see that on because anytime like X-Wing pilots come up and like there's all these random X-Wing pilots that, like obviously I know their names now, but like I want to hear those backstories. I want to see Wedge get the forefront because he gets a little time to shine in Rebels. He pops up here and there in a couple of like canon novels, but like and every time he does show up, I'm like, oh yes, Wedge Antilles in the story. But I want to see him lead a show and lead Rogue Squadron, become the leader of Rogue Squadron. Now that Luke goes off and all that, but
yeah,
I always wanted to see that because I love X-Wing fighters and I love X-Wing pilots.
Oh, I'd like to see Poe being a spice runner.
Ooh,
that'd be pretty cool too.
That'd be pretty fun.
That'd be awesome.
Run that spice.
While we're on that note of character or like stories we want to see, are there any like canon characters that you've seen out there in the books or video games or anything that you want to see jump into live action? Because we're getting a few more with Ahsoka and all those people that are coming into Mandalorian. Is there anybody that pops in your brain like, I really want to see that person come to live action?
God, what's his name? In Rebels, he's the guy that always shows up to help them. He's the smuggler. God, what is his name?
Oh,
Ezra.
Oh,
good to see you, my friend. What is his name?
He's not in the movie, so I threw him out of my brain.
Yeah, don't tax yourself thinking of this name. You don't need this name.
He's in the Clone Wars too. Oh,
he's in the Clone Wars. Yes, that's right.
He's the pirate.
Clone Wars and Rebels.
Somebody in the chat help us out, please.
He's always showing up.
And he's at Galaxy's Edge too. He's an animatronic for the
Is
Falcon
he really?
ride. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's so cool. But yeah, he's a fun character.
That's what I'm saying. I'd love to see him jump in because it reminds me of Rob Morgan's character in all those Netflix Marvel shows. He shows up as in Daredevil and in Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. He's just one of these guys that constantly pops up, and you always enjoy when he does. And he's he's a great addition to the lore.
Hondo Onaga, is that it? Hondo.
Yeah,
it's Hondo.
I bet you're right.
I love Hondo. He's so funny.
All right, now take that out of your brains.
Yes,
Hondo.
Throw it away.
It's out. But yeah, so again, John, you have a heart out, so we're gonna go ahead and move on.
Yeah.
Again, we went off on a small little tangent, but the main topic of tonight is the
Make Solo 2
Make Solo 2 happen. It was trending
Yeah.
yesterday because it was the anniversary of the hashtag. But what are your thoughts on Solo? I don't think I've ever gotten your full thoughts on Solo, a Star Wars story. I enjoyed it. I didn't ever really think it was necessary, but nonetheless, it was a fun space adventure with Han Solo.
I mean, did we need a Rush Hour 3? No. But was it fun? Yeah. Sometimes you don't need it, but it's fun to have it.
What were your thoughts, John?
Well, I mean, I thought, I didn't think Solo was the greatest film. I thought there were some issues with it, and it does feel like a little bit of a Frankenstein movie, and I would have liked to have seen the Lord and Miller cut. Now, I'm not starting anything here. I'm just saying I would have liked to have seen the original cut with Lord and Miller and let them finish their story. Ron Howard came in, did a serviceable job. Certainly, look, I love Ron Howard as a director. When he starts from beginning to end, he rarely makes a bad movie. So for me, him stepping into the situation was a weird situation, and it kind of softened the edges. It dulled down the edges of a lot of the story that I sensed Lord and Miller were trying to go for. And look, find me a bad Lord and Miller movie or a Lord and Miller project, then maybe I'll give you a little bit of credibility that they should have stopped 90% into the movie or 80% into the movie. It did a complete 180 with the film. But in the end, we got a serviceable Star Wars film. I know a lot of people defend it and a lot of people don't like it. But my friend over there at Resistance Broadcast, John Hoey, they were the guys who started it. They were the people who started it, there. And I asked them about it before we came on the show today. We were DMing on Twitter. I was asking about it. He said, when we asked about it today, like what happened yesterday, rather, he said it exploded yesterday as the top trending topic just under Memorial Day. The hashtag Memorial Day was bigger than last year, and we had Eunice on our show campaigning for it. That's the gentleman who plays Chewbacca. He said Lucasfilm is fully aware of it since last year, so the ball is in their court, but the movement is a beast. It is legit, and it is handled with kindness and love, not pitchforks and demands. Maybe that helps it resonate. We'll see. And he said anytime Star Wars fans can do something fun and positive on social media, I'll call it a win. A Solo series would kick bleeping butt, in my opinion, writes itself. I know you may not agree. Because I know you're not the biggest fan. He knows this. I'm not the biggest fan of Solo. And he says, just please make sure that people know when you talk about it that this started 2 years ago. It isn't some kind of post-Snyder Cut stuff. We've been talking about it for 2 years. And he's right. The Make Solo 2 happened. I remember when all those hashtags blew up a year ago and the year after that. So pretty amazing what they've been able to do. And I think it was 200,000 people shared it or something like that. It was pretty massive in its trend. So there is a push for it.
Yeah.
I just don't know necessarily how you would make it happen. Would you bring back Alden Ehrenreich? Would he want to come back after all the stuff he took? That's the question at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, you thought Alden Ehrenreich did us. He did it fairly for what he was given.
It was a losing battle from the minute he was cast. There's no way that you're gonna live up to Harrison Ford, no matter who you cast, unless you go back in time and cast Harrison Ford himself. No one was going to be happy with anybody that got cast. And I thought he did fantastic with what he was given. Solo 2, I don't know what you're going to do, though, story-wise.
Yeah.
I feel like the nostalgia thing that, like, nabbed people with Solo was, oh, I get to see how they won the Falcon and did the Kessel Run. Like, what are you going to do in Solo 2? I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of stuff in books and whatever that you can go into, but, you know, normies like me, what am I going to know about that stuff, you know?
I saw people suggest Akira and Darth Maul's story for Solo 2, where Solo is an ancillary character instead of a main character. But I just don't know.
But then you couldn't call it Solo 2. You'd have to... But, like, because I think the biggest point of, like, conversation for, the biggest thing that it has going for it is the Snyder Cut. Because people have been clamoring for release the Snyder Cut, and, like, look what happened. HBO and Warner Brothers. They're putting it on that. We're getting the Snyder Cut. I'm extremely excited for that because I've always wanted to see what Snyder was going to do with the Justice League. But again, this isn't a DC show. This is a Star Wars show. Like, do we see Solo 2 happening? It's like, again, like what do you tell? What stories do you tell? Like, and where do you gamble on it putting it out in theaters again? Because Solo, it made money, but compared to the rest of the Star Wars film, it was a quote unquote disappointment. Because and it was, and Bob Iger fully admitted, it's like, yep, it was a mistake to put it in May. We should have put it in December. It would have given more time to market it. Would have given more time to polish the film out. Yeah, come on,
what
Bob.
An idiot.
Bob. But like, I've always been one. Yeah, I've always been one to like. You planted your flag in December when The Force Awakens came out.
Yeah.
You continued that with Rogue One. You continued with Last Jedi, and then you're like, oh, for the fun of it. Let's put up it against Infinity War. Infinity War is what? 3 weeks before?
This random standalone movie. We'll put it up against
Infinity
War.
A lead up to the biggest film ever. Let's go ahead and put it up against that. And it's just like, okay, cool. And I was the only one that's like, we really don't need a Solo origin story, quote unquote. Because that's basically what it was for the most part. Like, hey, this is how we got his DL-44. This is how he won the Falcon. This is how he did the Kessel Run. And I was like, okay, I mean, it was still fun. I think the Kessel Run was probably my favorite part about the movie. But like, do you gamble on putting it in theaters, or do you go the route of streaming?
Disney Plus.
You can save a lot of money, and to bring it back to what we were talking before with that, how they shot the Mandalorian with the whatever it's called, the void or the vault. I can't remember what I said.
Volume.
The volume. Thank you.
Don't worry, I'll recall stuff.
You can save a lot of money that way. But like, with that new technology, do you gamble on making this movie or series and save a bunch of money by using the technology that is proven to have worked? Because they completely fooled me with that technology. Yeah. They completely fooled me. That scene where he's in the sunset and fixing his armor, I was like, oh man, they must have really rushed to get that up. It's like, nope. They did that in a studio, and I was like, wow, that fooled me. So do you save money that way, do a streaming service, but I just don't really. The biggest problem for me is like it's just what story do you tell?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if it's Solo 2 and Solo's an ancillary character, then it's not a Solo film.
Right. That's an excellent point. So,
yeah.
I mean, you've got Lando. There's stuff to play if you can convince Donald Glover to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You could play with a lot of things if you wanted to, and certainly if Eunice being part of this thing, or I think that's how you say his name is
Jonas.
Jonas.
Yeah,
Jonas. I mean, him being part of this kind of shout out for it there at Star Wars News Net. I mean, that's got to give some kind of credibility to this thing that there is a desire amongst Star Wars fans, or enough Star Wars fans to see it. So I like the idea of a TV series more than a film. because you can go deeper into the world of Solo and the underworld. And maybe, as we were talking earlier, maybe that's where you weave in some of the underworld stuff, because Solo was the smuggler and doing all and the scoundrel and the rogue. All of that can be you can move storylines through that are connected to Solo and are connected to Underworld as well, and have him play a part of it. So I think that's how you can possibly redeem the situation. Two for one.
And I would like to revisit Kira and Maul story, because that was kind of the most interesting part of it, because like, regardless of how Solo went, I think it tied into the canon. This is one of my biggest gripes about especially the saga films. They were just so gun shy to connect the canon to everything. Because like we were promised, like, all right, books count, video games count, comic books count. It's like they do and they don't. you see the canon adjusting to the movies and not the movie adapting towards the canon. And that was one of my biggest gripes. It's like, there's some great stuff, because there's some great stuff in the Rise of Skywalker novelization where they bring in when the scene where all the ships come in at the end, and like you see like the fireball call in. It's like, hey, this is Kaz. I'm calling in. It's like, hey, cut the chatter, Kaz. I'm like, why wasn't this in the film? Why wasn't this in the film? And like Wraith Squadron from the Aftermath books, those Wraith Squadron was created by Wedge Antilles, was calling in the end. It's like, why? What's going on? This would have been fantastic. But like, I get it. You know, you don't want to restrict your filmmakers, but like, for argument's sake, say they do greenlight Solo 2. What type of story would you want to see them do? And assuming that Alden Ehrenreich comes back to play Solo, because if it's going to be a Solo 2, you got to have Han Solo in there. So like,
and I don't think they should recast.
No, I mean, because you recast your
more time.
Yeah, no, because then
maybe if they do, people will appreciate Alden Ehrenreich, or however you say his name. That's probably what. If they do recast, they'll be like, "Wow, maybe he wasn't so bad."
right.
I don't know what story I'd want to see.
I mean, one of my because there's this novel that came out before or after the film. It was Last Shot, and it told the story from Lando, young Solo and young Lando, and old Solo and old Lando, and like they bounce back and forth. Did you read that book, John, or were you aware of it?
No, I did not. I did not read that one. No.
It was fine. I wasn't in love with it, but like my biggest problem with it was that if we're telling these smaller stories, keep the conflict small, and like I don't want to keep running into these galactic wide problems. It's like, all right, so like keep it contained to like the problem that our heroes go up against is maybe confined to this one planet or this one sector of the galaxy, and like don't have it like, all right, we have another big bad guy threatening to take over the galaxy. It's like, I don't need that. Like if you are going to go into a Solo 2, make it a small story. Maybe he's running a job for Jabba or this other gangster, and it just goes wrong. And like I don't want to see any ties to the rebellion. I don't want to see any ties to the Skywalkers. Make it this one small little in-pocket story that happened to Solo in this small little time frame, and then you can do it that way. I think that's the way to do it, because I don't want every problem doesn't have to be galactic, and because and that's why I love this. There's certain books that I've read that like it deals with smaller problems, and it's like that's the way it should be told, because not everything has to be a problem for the galaxy.
Well, what about Santa Solo? Do you tell that story? Do you bring that character in and talk about how that all happened between them? Because that's a small story. That's not necessarily an expansive galaxy story. That's more of a smaller story about what he did to get out of a situation, and that could lead. It could lead all the way up to where she comes off that ship in the comic book.
Oh yeah,
and shocks everybody to pieces.
Yeah,
it could be something like that. So
yeah,
I think that's possible.
Yeah, because like I'm not up to date on all the comics, because it's so hard to keep up to date on the comics, because it's an issue every week, and there's so many stories and like so many like things that are missing with the canon, and it's just like, wow, okay, I'm just gonna. That's the one form of canon that I'm not totally up to date on, because there's so much. But like, yeah, maybe adapt something from the comic book. That'd be pretty cool. What about you? You haven't chimed in.
I don't know.
There you go. She's not the best color person in the business for nothing, folks. I mean, I think it has to be a buddy cop thing. It has to be Lando and Solo with Chewie going where they're going, and maybe even Kira gets involved in some way again. And so maybe they're going after Kira because she fully dials into the Crimson Dawn rather. So she's a criminal.
Yeah.
And so maybe he's got to like find a way to stop her in some situation. So, you know, you still keep the storylines going.
Yeah, I would like that because the next time we see Lando is in Empire. And they're all buddies now. They're buddies. And the last time we see him in Solo, he just took the Falcon from him. They're not buddies.
Exactly.
So like we can see something like that.
Playing games with each other.
Yeah, exactly.
And Michael Knipp chimed in again. I want to see Aaron Kellyman back as Enfys Nest. I'd love to see more about Enfys Nest.
Yeah. You love Enfys
Maybe
Nest.
Maybe the Han and the crew, they run into Enfys again. Maybe she teams up with them and they go after Kira. That would be cool.
Yeah,
I guess.
I like that.
That'd be great.
I love Enfys Nest.
Anything
She's
else?
So cool.
Anything else in the world of Star Wars that's on your guys' mind before we end it? Because we are running into your heart out, John.
Yeah. I don't know. Has there been anything else that has really kind of popped off with casting or anything like that? I haven't heard much of anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you guys have probably covered all the Mandalorian stuff that all that's been announced. And where do you fall? Is it Cobb Vanth or is it going to be Boba Fett? Is Timothy Oliphant?
I think it's
the Boba Fett clone grown up, or is it?
I think it's Cobb Vanth, just because it lines up really well. That the timeline matches up so perfectly with canon, and if you read the aftermath, that little like snippet of the story, it makes perfect sense. So it has to be. And yeah.
So is Boba Fett officially dead then? The character,
the
person that was wearing the Boba Fett armor, is that person officially dead, or is Boba Fett, or is Tamora Morrison playing the Boba Fett clone, trying to get his armor back from Cobb Vanth?
I would like to see that, because because it's alluded that Boba Fett got out of the Sarlacc pit, because where else would Cobb Vanth get the armor? So, we'll see. I was one of these like, don't stop dropping these news because I want to be surprised to see Tamora Morrison show up. I want to see surprised to see Ahsoka show up, because I would have lost my mind, but now I'm expecting them to show up in the show, even though Lucasfilm hasn't confirmed any of this. But it's already out there. But yeah, I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap the show up right now, because John's got another show to prepare for. Busy man.
I do.
So really quickly, John, where can they find you online? What do you got going for the Outlaw Nation and everything like that?
Yeah. You guys can always find me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. And if you want to come and see all the stuff that we got going on the Outlaw Nation channel, the YouTube channel, please go to youtube.com/John Rocha Says. They wouldn't let me have The Rocha Says, so I had to do the next best thing, John Rocha Says. But we have movie stuff every morning. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning. Me and Action Army's Alex Shawshak. We break down the entertainment news of the day, and those views have been going up like crazy since you came on the show. We just hit our rhythm immediately, so you got to watch that every Monday, Wednesday, Friday about 8:15 a.m. We do it till about 9:45. Then I have my sports show Game Time on Mondays. On Tuesdays, I got the Outlaw Nation show. Tonight, if you guys want, come from 6 to 8 p.m. I got Kate Mulligan on tonight. Tomorrow, live episode of Strong Style, my pro wrestling show. And then on Thursdays, I don't do much on Thursdays other than the podcasts, which are Top 10 and the Cinephiles. And on Friday, back to Mornings with the Outlaw, and back to another couple of live episodes as well. So a lot of stuff going down. I do have my own Star Wars show coming. It's called The Jedi Way. It'll be a pre-produced about 20 to 25-minute show speaking about a philosophical concept within the world of Star Wars. That's kind of what intrigues me about Star Wars now more than anything else. I'm not going to be able to name the species or the name of the characters or whatever most of the time, but what really always hooks me with Star Wars now is the philosophical stuff that they explore and present throughout all the movies and the TV shows. So that's what the Jedi Way is going to be. And I finally found two really strong producers who will help me with that content, and I'll be able to get that out as soon as possible for everybody. So all that stuff coming in. Probably got two more shows I'm going to announce soon. So because apparently I'm not busy enough. So
apparently not.
That's there.
Yeah, go ahead and check all those shows out. If you don't see me in chat, it's because I'm lurking. Obviously I've been avoiding chats.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I tune in when I can.
Yeah,
but,
we're there. We just lurk a lot.
We lurk a lot in chats. So like.
I appreciate that.
So many people that we have to keep up with and support. But definitely check those out. For Nicki, where can they find you online?
Well, I don't know how to follow John here, but I'm on Twitter. Every so often I tweet something. My name's Dimmy. DIMMMYYY.
As for me, you can follow me on Twitter and Twitch. I know I have been twitching in quite some time for obvious reasons, but follow me there at Drew Dimalanta, DIMALANTA. And if you would please be so kind, subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment below if you're watching this on replay. Go to wherever you find this, because this is an audio form on our podcast feed. Go to the Beyond the Schmodown podcast feed. Please rate us. It helps out tremendously. And if you do feel as inclined to join the Patreon, sorry you're going to not see John for a second, but thank you again to our squad mates for joining the Patreon, especially our squad officers, captains, and our commanders, Tamar Butter and Alec Miller. Thank you so much. We are actually doing a movie watch-along coming very soon. We're obviously doing Star Wars A New Hope. That'll be dropping very soon. We do play-alongs that the Patrons get. The Schmodown play-alongs have been really popular.
Yeah. I just did a play-along to John Rocha and Dan Merle, and may I just say, I smoked them.
What?
No, I absolutely didn't. I got like negative 1 point.
She's doing better. She's doing better though. But
I'm getting better. I saw like one of the movies.
But thank you again to John Rocha for joining us.
Thank you.
Always glad to talk to you. No matter what we're talking about, it's always great to have you on. But thank you again, everybody, for joining us on this episode of Going Rogue. We'll see you next week. Won't be live. We're moving it to Friday nights. This is the last live show, so we had to swing big and get John Rocha on for it.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week. May the Force be with you. Always. Okay, we're clear.
Clear.